Welcome to Visual Literacy Advertising Lesson 2 of a series of 4 Logos, Taglines, and Slogans. Now let's have a look at logos first. First thing to remember about logos is that they are permanent, they are visual. They are permanent and they are visual, and they represent a brand. Permanent visual representations of a brand. They symbolize, in other words, the core identity of the brand. Now, sometimes the brand will be written into the logo. For instance, in the case of Starbucks. If you look at Mercedes, it's not there. If you look at Nike, once again, the name is there. So it might or it might not include the brand name. It might or it might not also be included into the actual advertisement, into the main picture of the actual advertisement. But you will probably, if it's not part of the main advertisement, you'll probably find it in the bottom right-hand corner. Look out for it. Now, as I said before, it is the symbolic core of the brand. And the word symbolic is important here because it is usually loaded with symbolic information that you may or may not be aware of. So if you look at Starbucks, for instance, it has a very interesting history where it comes from, and it was very cleverly put together because what you see here is a picture of a twin-tailed siren from mythology. Now, what these twin-tailed sirens did, they would sit on a rock and the sailors would come by in their boats and they would be singing these melodious songs. And the sailors then felt compelled to move towards the rocks. They could not resist these sirens. But what the sirens actually did, they lured them to their death. So there's this idea of something dangerous as well, but you feel that you cannot resist. So what does that signify in terms of Starbucks? So it suggests to us a sort of a compulsion that you must have this coffee. It's something beautiful that you're drawn towards. Might be a bit dangerous, but something that you cannot live without. So that's basically when next you drink Starbucks. Remember that. Then we have a look at the logo of Mercedes. Now, the founder of Mercedes, Gottlieb Daimler, came up with the concept of the 1, 2, 3-pointed star, which he envisioned for motorization. And that stands for air, land, and water. Now, his associate, Benz, came up with the circle, which initially was a laurel wreath. So here you can also see suggestions of ancient times and winning and, so forth. So there's a traditional idea. But in 2009, they came up with the more streamlined circle, the one that you know now. So here is the logo of Mercedes. Air, land, water, and the laurel wreath that's been streamlined into modern times. Then we look at Nike. You may have wondered what this sign means. It's not like a tick when you get something right in class. It is a swoosh sign, that actually comes from the wings of the goddess of victory. So they took the wing of the goddess of victory to suggest to us that this goddess will enhance forward movement, forward motion, and eventually victory. Now, those of you who own Nike products will know how this is connected to sports, etc. Now, quite different from the logo, which is a permanent visual, the tagline and the slogan are audible representations of the brand. I know they are written in words and so, and you can read them, but when you read them, they sort of ring with lyrics, and there are all sorts of methods that people use when they want to advertise, and we're going to have another lesson on that. But they are meant to be audible, right? You're meant to sort of hear them. So you have to be able to distinguish between a tagline and a slogan when you answer questions. That's, of course, apart from the logo, which is so totally different, the permanent visual. These are audible, and you must be able to distinguish between the tagline and the slogan. Many people have a problem with that. So it's actually quite easy. The tagline is the more permanent, audible representation of a brand. Now, if you look, for instance, at the tagline, share a Coke, it is something that Coca-Cola has used for a very long time. This tagline has been used for a long time, and it's probably going to stick around for a long time. It's the more permanent one of the two. A slogan is exactly like a tagline, except that they are normally varying. They are varying. In other words, when after a few years, for instance, Coca-Cola feels that the campaign that we had in 2010 was very successful and so forth, but we've moved on. Times have changed slightly, and we must now reach out to our audience a bit in a different way. So what they do is they take that tagline, they change it a little bit, or they come up with a totally new slogan, which is not going to be permanent forever, but will work for a certain period of time. So while there is a big difference sort of between the two, in a way, they are both just slogans, but the slogans vary when the new brand identity is established. So a tagline would be share a Coke, for instance, and the slogan would be, for instance, share a Coke with Laura. So what they did with a certain campaign, they started bringing in with their tagline, they started to add a new thing. So this became a slogan: share a Coke with Laura, share a Coke with John, share a Coke with Eddie, whoever. They put in various names. So the suggestion was that you could put your own name in there, or the name of your friend in there. Coke was for everybody. So it's just a slight difference. Other slogans that came up during campaigns would be can't beat the real thing, or they don't make them like they used to, we do. So don't worry too much between the difference between slogans and taglines in terms of when you answer exam questions. I don't think you'll ever be marked down if you accidentally use it incorrectly, because they are sort of the same thing. But just remember the more permanent and the more varying ones. Okay, so now, from time to time, as we said, a certain brand comes up with an idea. And I think, for instance, the tagline that we've been using for a very long time, how inclusive is it? How effective is it? How well is it working for our target market now, today? And they sometimes actually change their tagline. Visa, for instance, had this tagline for a very, very long time, until 2014, when they changed their tagline altogether. Now, this is what basically went on there. It used to be Visa. Can you see how it's more formal for the times? 2014 Visa. And the emphasis was on the card. Beautiful, white, clean card, very professional. If you take this card out of your pocket, it looks beautiful. But it says in the tagline, it says, It's everywhere you want to be. Suggesting you are not there where you want to be, but you would like to be there. And what is there, the card? It sort of excludes the actual user of the card in a way. It puts them aside. So what they thought, they thought again about this whole tagline, about the visual nature of the card. And they said, fine, let us, for instance, take the user or the buyer or the client into a certain situation, put him there where he wants to be, and change it to a more user-friendly card. So they discarded this, and in 2014, they decided on this one. Now look subconsciously what it does to you. If you look at this card, if you take it out, you can already imagine yourself. There's a picture of a person there. You can already imagine yourself in a place where you want to be. And you still have the Visa. Can you see the logo there? You still have Visa basically the same. And see how they actually place you in a certain situation. And the background is not white and clean anymore. The background is a sky, suggesting the sky is the limit. You can go wherever you want to with this Visa card, right? And they changed the actual tagline. This tagline is not going to be used again. It is the permanent representation of Visa. It's not going to change again. So their whole brand identity has changed altogether, including the tagline. And the tagline now is everywhere you want to be. Now, can you see how it suggests that you now, everywhere you want to be? In other words, the emphasis now is on the person. It's not on the Visa, it's on you. So it's more personalized touch here. And I leave it up to you to think about this and ask yourself, which one of the two do you think is more effective? Bye for now.